Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 728. And today's date is July 28th, 2015. And the title of this episode is Ground Troops Are on the Ready to Enter the Safe Zone in Syria. Now, before I get started, I just want to make an announcement. Tomorrow, Wednesday, I'll be uploading an interview with Gregory Mannarino. If you're on the X22Report.com email alert system, you will get an email. If you subscribe to the X22 Report Spotlight channel, you should get an email from YouTube. If not, you can come right to YouTube, type in X22 Report Spotlight, and it should bring you right to the channel so you can view the video. If you'd like to come to the X22Report.com, I will put the video on the right-hand side so you can view it from there, or you can click over to YouTube from that area. Let's get right into the economic collapse news. Now, out in Greece, we understand the situation there is really not improving. Actually, it's getting worse for the people. Well, for the creditors, the bankers, of course, all that bailout money is going to them. But the people, they're not seeing it. And we're starting to see that wholesalers right now can't pay for their supplies. Importers, foreign counterparts won't trade. Greece's cash crunch hit small merchants, and they're still struggling. And right now, the store owners are saying nobody's buying. They're saying they haven't even had a single customer in the last couple of days. And many of them are shutting down their shops. Right now we're seeing retail has plunged by 70% in Greece. Now, of course, the corporate media, they're trying to convince everyone that everything is fine in Greece. They're back on track. But we're starting to see that the country cannot survive like this. The capital controls have prevented Greek consumers from shopping, and even foreign tourists appear reserved due to the increased uncertainty on developments in Greece. Also, we're starting to see doctors. They are leaving the country. About 7,500 doctors have migrated to other countries since 2010, and the number of doctors is continually increasing. So what are we seeing here? We are definitely seeing a complete collapse of a country. We have capital controls in effect. They told us the stock market was going to open on Tuesday. So far, we have not seen this. And, of course, they're talking about bail-ins going for those accounts that have more than 100,000 euros. And we know a lot of Greek people have taken their money out of the account, and they're trying to get all of these people to put their money back in the bank accounts. But of course the people are saying, no, we know what happened in Cyprus. We're not going to do this. We know that you're going to rob us. We're not worried about the outside criminals. We're worried about the criminal banking institutions who are going to rob us from the inside. And they have every right to feel this way. We see the German Economic Council is going to back exits for uncooperative Eurozone members. So any member that's uncooperative, they don't do what they're telling them to do, they don't take the bailout, they're not put into more debt, they might force them to leave the Eurozone. I think the Eurozone is doomed anyhow at this point. I don't think it can survive. The whole entire system is completely falling apart. All these countries are in a huge amount of debt, and it is not getting better. Unemployment continually going up. Of course, a lot of the countries are doing what the United States does. They manipulate the numbers. They try to show that, no, people don't want to work. That's why unemployment's high. Well, no, they want to work. They just can't find the jobs. The people aren't leaving the industry. The industry is leaving the people. The same thing's happening here in the United States. But when we look at Europe, we see the unemployment rate is at 11.1%. In the United States, of course, it's 5.3%. And if we break it down to each country, and of course, we know that the number is much, much higher than what they're reporting. But France is reporting 10.3%, Italy 12.4%, Portugal 13.7%, Spain 22.37%, Greece 25.6%, and the youth unemployment numbers are over 50% in a lot of these countries. Some are bordering right at the 50% mark. And we see out in Italy, It's not any better. For every 100 workers in Italy, there are 15 people seeking a job and another 20 willing to work, but they can't find anything. So what does this tell us? This tells us there is no growth in Europe. They're continually telling us, yes, there is growth, but it looks like it's stalled a little bit. They've been telling us there's a recovery in Europe since 2012. 2013, they said in the summer of 2013, they're on track. The recovery's here. Unemployment's going to drop dramatically. Didn't happen. 2014, same thing. Here we are in 2015. There is no difference. Oh, wait, there is a difference. The situation in Europe is getting worse by the minute. But here in the United States, the corporate media is out there telling us that everything is just fine. We're in a recovery. But the economic information that we are looking at is telling us otherwise. When we look at U.S. consumer confidence, they're telling us, oh, it bounced back in June, everything is fine, but it collapsed now in July. It is at 90.9. This is the lowest since September of 2014. More worrying than all of this is the crash in hope as consumer expectation plunges from 92.8 to 79.9. And you have to remember, 57% of Americans believe the U.S. economy is getting worse. So what do we have here? We have a situation where the economic statistical information that the government is putting out is completely different from what the people are feeling. And I talk about real estate quite a bit. And I talk about how I go around the country. I look at home prices. I look at how the houses are continually on the market and the prices are coming down. And of course, the corporate media, the U.S. government, is continually telling that prices are continually going up. And as I continue to look, I realize that no, prices are coming down. Actually, people are lowering them quite a bit. And houses are on the market 90, 120 days. But you have to remember, all of these news organizations, all these research centers, they're always a little bit behind on what's really going on. Because we're starting to see now, coming out of Case-Shiller, home prices have tumbled. What? I thought they said everything was fine. We're in a real estate recovery. No, we're not in a recovery. We're in a central bank bubble. We see a 0.18% month-over-month decline in Case-Shiller Home Price Index. It is the biggest since July of 2014, which confirms the David Blitzer's view that over the next 2 years or so, the rate of home prices increases is more likely to slow than to accelerate. Well, I'm going to say they're going to decline and drop dramatically. And I don't even care what the National Association of Realtors say, because every time they make a prediction, it's completely the opposite. And they're telling us real estate is about to take off. You know it's going to plummet and take a huge dive. We are in the hot season right now. No pun intended that we're in summer, but right here, this is the season where people go and they sell their homes. They're looking for buyers. We know that school is going to start soon. People want to get their houses sold. And guess what? I looked around the country once again. It's getting worse. Now, of course, when the corporate media tells you about how real estate is getting worse, it'll be 3 months from now. I told you months ago that the prices are coming down. They're just telling you that now. Do you think it just happened at this point in time? No, it's been happening. They just haven't reported it. And we're still seeing this. Houses are on the market longer and longer. We are seeing a repeat of 2008. And if we look around, we see that all these different areas, it's not getting better whatsoever. I mean, we're looking at Atlanta, Boston, all down. New York. We're looking at Washington. San Francisco is even down. And when we look at this, we see that there's no way that the American person is out there purchasing homes. Because we know that most of the mortgage departments have laid off tens of thousands of people because they knew there was no one going to buy homes using mortgages. Most of the houses that are being sold right now are with cash. These are hedge funds, investment companies, foreign investor. It's not the people here in the United States. It's the central bank loaning out free money at zero or negative interest to have these different investment hedge funds go in and gobble up homes, hold on to them, rent them if you can. And according to the poll, the number of Americans who did not currently own a home say they do not think they will buy a home in the foreseeable future. This has risen by 1/3 to 41% versus only 31% 2 years ago. This is more proof that people here in this country are not going out buying homes. A Gallup poll was done, and they're looking at this and they're saying, yeah, the situation does not look good. The longer term outlook of people going out purchasing homes is declining. Home ownership rate plunged, the lowest since 1986, or 63.7% to just 63.4%, the lowest reading since the first quarter of 1967. So you're trying to tell me this real estate recovery is being driven by who? The people of the United States? No, absolutely not. This is a lie. This is a central bank bubble created to convince you that we are in a recovery. We are not. It can't be, because what they're saying makes no sense. If home ownership has dropped to 63.4%, the lowest since 1967, how can they say people are going out and purchasing these homes? Think about this. College graduates, they're graduating school, they can't find the high-paying job. They have their loans modified because they can't find the jobs. They're living with their parents. These people aren't buying homes. People back in 2008 lost credit, lost their home, lost their job. They've never bounced back. They're not buying homes. The older generation, they're trying to sell their home. So where are all these home sales coming from? Who's buying it? Well, we know who's buying it. It's the hedge funds, it's the investment companies, it's foreign investors using cash. We see the hedge fund and investment companies not just buying one house, they're buying thousands of them. The banks have been instructed, do not release the foreclosed homes. Keep them off the market. It will drive the prices up. If people see prices going up, they believe we're in a real estate recovery. And they're hoping to bring these people into the housing recovery, which really doesn't exist. And we're starting to see that this is starting to fall apart. As we move into fall and into winter, what do you think the real estate market's going to look like? Let's say they raise interest rates. Well, you know, just doing a small little tick up is going to put a lot of people out of the market, and the real estate industry is going to decline even further. But of course, the corporate media is out there, and they use all different type of headlines to convince us that everything is fine. I mean, if we look at one from Reuters, like U.S. home price growth stalls in May. Wall Street Journal, home price growth remains solid in May, says Kay Schiller. No, what's happening is we reached the top. It's been coming down for a while. All these people are just a little late to this party here, where we're going to see this huge decline of prices. And they've already started. Just go on to Zillow or Realtor.com or any of these sites. Take a look around. Look at the houses. Now, is this happening in every single area? No, it's not. Did we see this happen in every single area leading up to 2008? No, we saw it in pockets of areas, which gave us an indicator that something was going on. And then it spread. It spread to different areas. And those people who've been listening to me know at that time I was selling my house. I had my sister-in-law in Florida, and I said the traffic dried up in New York. And she told me that, no, everything is fine down here. We're writing contracts like crazy. 6 to 8 months later, guess what happened? It completely dried up. We're seeing the same thing occur right now. We're seeing that traffic is drying up. People are holding back. And they're not buying. The few people that were are now holding back. This is what we are seeing right now. UPS is out there, and they're warning of a sluggish U.S. economy. They're worried about the future right now because they realize that the American people, they're just not purchasing. Now, of course, people are saying, well, what's happening is people are going to online sales instead of buying from the brick and mortar stores. And this is why the brick and mortar stores are having a problem. This is why we see a decline in retail. If this is true, then we see a correlation between those people who are not shopping in brick and mortar and they're shopping online. But we don't see this. We don't see an increase in sales online as brick and mortar declines. We're seeing it in both places. This tells us there's something wrong with the economy. They just don't want to admit it yet. They don't want to admit it until the stock market falls and collapses. Then all these corporations, the corporate media will be out there. We are in a collapse. Everything is falling apart. This is what they do. Everything leading up to it, it's to convince you that everything is fine because they want everyone in the stock market. They want people to be all in the housing market. They're setting all of this up. And they're trying to keep it going just a little bit longer. Why are they keeping it going? Because they realize they need some type of an event. They don't want to be blamed for all this. This is not their fault. This is someone else's fault. And they'll blame it on another country, another group. This is what they've been planning for. Of course, a lot of people write into me and say, why doesn't this happen faster? Why does it take them? Because they are slow. They're on a certain schedule. Things don't always work out in their favor. They have to redo their plans. They try again, but the goal is always the same. And we've seen this time and time again. We see that the London Metal Exchange, the LME, on Tuesday started accepting yuan as collateral against contracts after getting permission from the Bank of England. The renminbi is on its way, which is /yuan, is on its way to becoming one of the world's most widely used currencies. We are pleased to be able to help our members take advantage of the opportunities arising from the renminbi internationalization. This is coming from Trevor Spanner, Chief Executive of the LME. And they're predicting right now that yuan renminbi could overtake the US dollar as international trade currency because China created the AIIB. They created the BRICS system. And we're seeing that the US dollar right now is still the main currency in international trade, but it's been slipping in its lead position as the world's reserve currency. And most of the global official foreign exchange reserves peaked at 71%. They're down to about 63% now, and this was in 2014. At this point, it's probably about 59%. After World War II, the U.S. GDP accounted for 45% of the world's total. Now, it is only 20%. And you have to remember, the U.S. didn't have all this debt, didn't have these problems in the Middle East. Because if we go back to World War II, the currency was backed by gold. 1971, it came off the gold standard, went on to the petrodollar system. Now they're losing control in the Middle East. The people are taking back their country. And this poses a problem because if they take back their country, they will no longer use the dollar to sell their oil. And they know this. And this is why they've been pushing so hard to remove the rights of the people, like their freedom of speech, to be spied on. They feel the right they can spy on you, to search you. They want to remove weapons. But everything Obama has tried and the central bankers have tried, where they stage these mass shootings, they're not working. And we can see at this point in time, they've tried many of these staged mass shootings, and they push their agenda to try to remove the weapons from the people. And he keeps writing all these different executive orders. They had the Dianne Feinstein bill in Congress and other bills in Congress, and they just couldn't get them to move. And what happened here is that this is according to a 2014 Pew Research poll. There has been a 9% rise in the number of Americans who think gun ownership could protect people from becoming victims of crime. So people here are saying, you know something? Maybe I should own a weapon to protect myself. This is a better alternative than to be without a weapon and unprotected. And this is what I talk about. All their stories about the Islamic State here in the United States and talking about removing the weapons from the people, it makes no sense, because if we are under attack, and if you believe the official story from the government, then we should all have weapons to protect ourselves, because they have shown us they cannot. All the spying, all the back doors, they have no clue of what is going on if you believe their official story. If you don't believe their official story, you realize that it is created by the government, this terror that we see. And why do they do this? Well, they scare the people into doing things they normally wouldn't do. And we can see at this point in time that they are preparing and getting ready to take control of the population when it is time. And we know they've been using facial recognition. We know they've been using social media. We know the NSA has been spying on the people. There's back doors into many of the internet companies, other companies. And of course, they're telling us that we're not spying on the people anymore because of the USA Freedom Act, but we know they are spying on us still. Because now the corporations will collect the data. The U.S. government will just order that data. And once they pass, if they can pass that CISA or CISPA legislation, it will allow companies to give your private information over to the government, and the companies will not be responsible. They cannot be sued. They're not held liable. And this is their main plan. This is what they're trying to do. And we see this new facial recognition technology that just came out from Germany. They can basically find out who you are in the dark. It uses thermal. It takes images of your face. And now they can find out who you are in the dark. And we know they are creating these databases. We know they're creating and correlating all the data to create social profiles. They want to know who is going to be a problem. And this is what they're doing right now. Now, we understand that Edward Snowden, he broke this thing wide open about the U.S. government spying on the people. And of course, there has been a petition, and there's about 167,000 signatures. And First Look reports that the White House has officially denied a hugely popular whitehouse.gov petition calling for NSA whistleblower Edward Snowden to be immediately issued a full, free, and absolute pardon. Basically what they're doing is they're just ignoring what the people want. And we've seen this many times around the world where the people want something and the government kind of looks the other way and they don't care. We saw it in Greece. We see it in Ukraine. We see it throughout the Middle East. We see it here in the United States. And they're continually saying, well, Snowden, he disclosed classified information. He put it out there. No, what he did was he reported on what the government was doing, how they were violating the rights of the people. They violated the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, the highest law of the land. So who are the traitors here? Think about this. And he didn't reveal it. News organizations, The Guardian, Washington Post, New York Times, The Intercept, did the disclosing. And we can see at this point in time, he was calling out what the government was doing. And this is what the founding fathers wanted. They wanted people to say, no, this is not allowed. You violated the rights of the people. But again, the government does not care what the people want whatsoever. They could care less. It makes no difference to them. We see right now that Obama is pushing the TPP. And he will do anything to appease the central bankers and the corporations. It makes no difference. The U.S. State Department has now upgraded Malaysia's ranking on human trafficking. Now, before, their ranking was at the bottom. And they raised it up like a 1 or 2 notches. Now, the question is, why did they do this? Why? Because they want them to join the TPP. And activists are out there are saying this is absolutely ridiculous. They didn't do anything to improve their problem in this country with human trafficking. And they said this whole entire move is to get them to join the TPP. No, the government wouldn't do something like this. Of course they would. They're trying to push the TPP. This is not a benefit to the people. They don't care about human trafficking or the rights of the people. They care about their agenda. They care about control of the people. Again, the central bankers have no allegiance to a people or a country. I mean, look at the U.S. government, their track record. Look at it in Ukraine, the Middle East. When they want a government overthrown, they support the people. Once the government is overthrown and they put a puppet government in there, anyone that opposes that government is now a terrorist. And they're put down. They have no rights, no freedoms, because they already have the puppet government in there. And we've seen this time and time again in each one of these countries. And we can see at this point in time, the only reason to do something like this is to push the TPP. They didn't give any other reason. We see Obama is out there, and he said something very strange. That if there was a third term for the president, that he would win. He believes that he was a great president. He put the country back on track. He has the country completely recovered. And of course, as you know, as it gets closer to either the end of this year or next, everything's going to start falling apart. They held it together just so long. We can see that things are completely falling apart and will not be able to be held together for much longer. And it's very odd that he would come out and say something like this, because he's saying if the Constitution was changed, he would stay as president and he would win. Now, is he looking to change something? Is he looking to say, okay, I will be the president? Is he looking to push martial law and shut down everything so he can remain president? We're going to have to watch and see. But it's a very strange and odd thing to say at this point in time. Now, the FBI has been arresting terrorist suspects on extremely flimsy pretexts, with charges stemming almost entirely from allegations by informants and the provision by the FBI of fake weapons to the suspects. And we know they set up a lot of patsies, and they really have no evidence. And when they go to prosecute all these people, like these people they say they're joining the Islamic State, that they're looking into it, they've been looking at social media, they can never prosecute any of these people. They find that it's extremely difficult. The allegations are vague. The evidence to support them is usually non-existent. So what they want to do right now is have speedy detentions of people under surveillance, even when there's no real evidence of wrongdoing, insisting that they are surveilling so many people at this point that it's getting kind of difficult to keep track of all this and to collect the right evidence. Because there's so many people looking at the Islamic State, and there's so many suspects, and they don't have the manpower. So what they need to do is they need to have some type of speedy detentions, and we don't need any type of evidence to lock someone up. And one top official rejected the idea that not being able to prosecute detainees for lack of evidence was a problem, saying that's the price you have to pay to prevent violence. What? Now they want to get rid of due process. So if they suspect something, they don't need any evidence. We can see where we are headed here. They are chipping away, or at least they're trying, but the people need to stand up for their rights. That's the thing. We have the rights, we need to stand up for our rights. And push back. Not violently. No, not at all. We need to say no. You can't do this. You can't spy on us. You can't tell us where we have freedom of speech. You cannot take away our weapons. We reject all of this. You are violating our rights. And we do this peacefully, with numbers, with people saying no more. Not with 1,000 people, 10,000 people, with millions of people marching on Washington saying absolutely not. This is the only way it's going to work. And the only way it's going to work is to get the message out there. And there will be a time and place to have this and to do this. Now, the situation in Ukraine, it seems like things are starting to ramp up. I mean, at this point in time, we realize what is happening here. The central bankers did not get what they paid for. They paid for the entire country of Ukraine. They're missing the southeastern portion and Crimea. But right now, Russia is going to be sending humanitarian aid to the Donbass region. They've already sent about 33 humanitarian convoys to help the victims. They're going to be sending 2 more in August. Now, we'll have to see how this plays out, because we're getting information now from Jeffrey Pyatt that things are getting worse in Ukraine. And Jeffrey Pyatt, which is the U.S. ambassador to Ukraine, he's claiming that the right sector is not really something we need to worry about. It's an exaggeration. They're not really doing anything. And you have to remember, the right sector was used to overthrow the elected president in Ukraine during the coup d'etat. And right now the U.S. is out there saying, no, keep your eyes off the right sector. There's nothing going on here whatsoever. It's all exaggerated. Nothing's happening. And right now we're seeing, and this is coming out of the U.S. ambassador, he's saying that Ukraine, the conflict there, is going to get worse. Now, what is he exactly saying? Well, right now we see the battle readiness of Ukraine's military and the rebels it's fighting in the country's east is at its highest level since the truce back in February. The monitors there, the OSCE, they are warning that the situation risks tipping back into a conflict that will start war once again. Tensions are building at this time. And Jeffrey Pyatt is out there saying Ukraine is implementing the Minsk agreement. Russia and its proxies are not. So he's saying that Ukraine is following the Minsk agreement, and the southeastern people and Russia, they're not following it. And you can see the propaganda starting to ramp up here before the battle begins. And we know eventually this will begin. We see right now the U.S. Army, they are building roads in Eastern Europe. What they've done is they've placed tanks in Eastern Europe, a lot of them in swampy areas. They can't move the tanks around, so they're going to bring in a lot of sand under the European Reassurance Initiative, and they're going to create roads to reassure Europe that these tanks can maneuver and get into position when needed. And all this is being done because of the Russian aggression, which we know there isn't any of that. Of course, they're building this up to make everyone believe that, yes, Russia is ready to attack. But again, when you use common sense, what is their motivation? There is no motivation to attack. They are making economic deals all around the world. They're not starting any type of war. Actually, if you look at what Putin has done, he has initiated peace in Syria, in Ukraine, the opposite of what they're telling us. We see that Russia, they're under threat of the United States trying to overthrow Putin and put in a puppet government, so they created a law, and they're going to get rid of those agencies that are undesirable. And they're seeing that, yeah, there's a lot of them inside of Russia. The U.S. National Endowment for Democracy is now labeled undesirable. And they are removing them from Russia. U.S. aid has been removed from Russia because all of these organizations are used for coups d'etats in different countries. Now, Hollande, the president of France, he's still trying to decide if he's going to make a delivery of the minstrel ships. And now, according to Hollande's statement on Monday, he will make a decision either to terminate the deal or to give the ships to Russia. Do you know how many times he's said this already? He said it many, many times. Now, out in the Middle East, we see things are starting to ramp up, especially in Syria. Turkey has called Article 4 NATO meeting twice, once in 2003 and once in 2013. In the latter incident, Germany, the Netherlands, and the United States sent 2 Patriot anti-missile batteries, each as well as soldiers trained in the operation of those missiles. Turkey is now requesting help with its border security due to the crisis in Syria. Now, why do we think this is happening? Well, we have to understand what Article 4 is. Article 4 allows any member of NATO to request assistance when its territorial integrity, political independence, or security is threatened. So NATO will come to the assistance of Turkey. And when we look at this, and we discussed this many times before, we see that they're following the Brookings Institution. They're following the scenario that we talked about. It kind of mirrors it, where we see that Turkey, in coordination with Israel, the United States, could help overthrow Assad by establishing a multi-front war on Syria's borders. And we see right now that Israel is having these huge drills at this time. Turkey and the U.S. have agreed that the U.S. can use the air bases in Turkey, not just one, but multiple air bases. U.S. and Turkey agreed to set up a safe zone, which is really a no-fly zone. And now Turkey is requesting the assistance of NATO. So what are they doing here? Well, this is the next phase, which we talked about yesterday. They are getting ready to go into Syria and push hard to remove Assad. And NATO supports Turkey's increased role in the fight against the Islamic State, which is a cover, which means they're going after Assad. And NATO says the 28-member state is behind them. Now remember, if anyone, or any country I should say, attacks a NATO nation, the other countries come and assist. Right now, U.S. and Turkey, they're going to provide air cover for the rebels in these areas. And what we see right now is they're going to use the planes to bomb different areas to remove all forces of Assad in this safe zone. They will have the whole northern area. And we're seeing that Turkey is really getting ready to declare war on Syria. They are now thinking about building up troops in the safe zone. They're going to create this big buffer zone, safe zone, no-fly zone, whatever you want to call it, and will deploy troops to the north, including Aleppo. Of course, they're going to convince everyone that they're basically protecting it from the Islamic State, but we know what's happening. And they're already planning on sending 5,000 soldiers to protect these areas. We've talked about this before, and it's now unfolding right in front of us. They are preparing to go in and remove Assad one way or another. Of course, the U.S. is saying, all this is being set up and we're not going after Assad. This is not the plan. Believe us, please. So all these years and all the times they've tried to remove Assad, at this point, this is not why they're doing it. No, they're there to get the Islamic State. Well, we know they are not there to get the Islamic State. We know right now they're getting ready to go after Assad. Everything is being set up. What the United States needs right now is the authorization for war to be passed. And this is the only thing that's missing at this point. Because once they set up this complete safe zone, they're going to be setting up others. They're going to say this is not part of Syria anymore. This is why we can bring troops into this area. And they will make their push into Damascus to remove Assad. They're going to go west. They already have the east. They have the north. Israel's covering the south. This is what's happening at this point in time. And what's very interesting at this time is that they're releasing these photos of 9/11, of how somber and saddened Cheney was and the other people in the conference room. And they're releasing all these photos, which gives me some thought here that they are planning something. Because they're saying, look at 9/11, look how concerned our leaders were that something like this occurred. And it feels like they're preparing the public once again for what is coming. We know we're coming to the end of July. Who's going on vacation? Congress. They'll be on vacation from the beginning of August till Labor Day. Some of them don't even come back until the next week after Labor Day. So we have this period of time where we might see some type of an event occur. And this is why everyone needs to be prepared. Because here we are once again. Think about what we've seen so far. Now, does this mean their plan's foolproof? No. But again, they've tried many times before. And here we are once again. This is why you need to get the medical supplies, the water, the food. You need to get everything. Have a weapon. Have cash on hand. Get gold and silver. Keep stocking. Do not stop. And I hope you haven't stopped. I mean, if you're just coming into this and you're just hearing me the first time, or you've been listening to me and you haven't done anything, this would be a good time to do it. I mean, you can go to places like lifereliance.com. They offer food storage, water storage, bug-out bags, 24-hour kits, first aid, you name it, they have it. It's all prepared for you. All you got to do is go over there and get it. If you've been doing this all along, or you want to start and you don't want to go through Life Reliance, you don't have to. Keep doing what you've been doing. There's so many different ways you can do this. But if you don't have the time and you need something quick, go to lifereliance.com. They have everything ready to go. Because we know the government, the central bankers, they're not going to stop. Their goal has always been the same. They are going to continue to do this until they get what they want. We already see Jeffrey Pyatt in Ukraine saying, Russia and the southeastern people, they're not following the Minsk agreement. Ukraine is. They're the ones to blame. We see, and we talked about this, about the safe zones, the no-fly zones. Of course, people said, oh no, this is impossible. They're not going to do this. Even the U.S. government said they are not going to do this, and here they are doing it. They said they're not going to be boots on the ground. Well, they said in Syria, the safe zone is not counted as Syria. It's a play on words. You know they're going to be bringing in troops. We need to be prepared for what is coming because we know this economy is collapsing. Look at Greece right now. Look how many people are out of work not bringing in money. Look how many people can't get their money out of the banks. The situation is growing faster and faster each day. It's spreading to other countries. And it will spread here. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.